everybody, it's Tony George along with Griff Murphy. Welcome to Doc Sports Gridiron Six Pack, and an interesting show today, and an interactive show, and a way for you to win a week's worth of college basketball from me and Griff, because we have a little contest going on that Griffin's not even aware of, but we're going to talk about it. This is our last show this year for the Gridiron Six Pack. Currently sitting right around 67% against the spread for the year on the show. We appreciate you tuning in. We are going to continue with the show in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be basketball based and a little bit more of a podcast type arrangement where we will give you free picks, but we'll give you some raw, candid, and unfiltered takes on weekend college basketball, the NBA, anything else that's going on. But here's the dilemma. We need a name for the show. So we're going to have you with your ideas. Go ahead and leave them in the comments section. And if we choose your title of the show, we will give you a week's worth of mine and a week's worth of Griffin's NBA or college basketball. You might want my NBA right now. I'm on a 15-3 run and just banked 3 top picks in a row in the last 10 days, and I got another one tonight. Just an epic run, 66% on the year in the NBA. So on a very low volume basis. I know Griff's been hot in the NBA this year. So leave us what you think we should name the show. We're talking hoops, college and pro. Now, I had a show when I first started coming to Doc's about a year into it called Doc Sports Happy Hour. And that right now is the front runner, the Happy Hour show. I did email Griff that this morning, but Griff, I never got an email back from you. Just Jeremy, our producer, tell me that you thought it was a great idea.
I love the idea, man. I was still rolling around with it. I read it. I was still digesting.
Okay, well, there you go, folks. Now, Griff and I will be up next Wednesday live on Twitter at 1 p.m. Pacific. I have a StreamYard podcast I do. So next week, we're going to be coming to you on StreamYard to talk about this, that, and the other. That is very unfiltered because we don't have to go by the YouTube rules of family entertainment. And my Twitter is at TGeorgeSports. So we'll be up next week. I'll remind you of it in the free play videos. And Griff and I are going to be talking about that show and setting it up for you in a raw and candid environment. And we might throw in a pick or two or talk about the NFL playoffs as well. But nonetheless, we appreciate you tuning in to the Gridiron Six Pack this year. It's been a success. Kind of faltered down the stretch here a little bit, but we're going to bounce right into it here. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a general discussion about the national title game before we get to the picks. Currently, Washington is a 4.5-point underdog, Griff, and the total is 55.5. It pretty much hasn't moved. The total jumped up 0.5 point since the open, and Michigan jumped in there at 5.5 before it was bet down to 4.5. You take a look at Washington. Gave up, and they're just my take. Washington, what concerns me about Washington is not their offense. Not Penix. Right. He looked great. They got weapons all over the field. Now, their running back got banged up when he shouldn't have got banged up. He shouldn't have been in the ball game. DeBoer's a very good head coach, but he bonehead move there. They did give up 532 yards to Texas, and most shocking, 180 on the ground. Yeah. Now, by the way, Blake Corum's running around for Michigan with a very good offensive line, which is a concern. And Michigan, on the other hand, gave up 307 yards and only 20 points to Bama and 31 to Texas. That being said, Griff, Michigan did not play that good of football. If you take a look, they had near misses. The interception opened up the game, was a horrible throw. Obviously, He's human. He's nervous. It's a national semifinal game. The guy was out of bounds. Could have set the ball game differently right there, getting the ball on the 20-yard line. That being said, they had some special teams blunders. They missed some plays. And the reason they won that game 27-20 against Alabama was, number one, is Alabama couldn't take advantage of those miscues. They weren't good enough. Matter of fact, Alabama wasn't even the best team in the SEC this year. Georgia was. But Georgia couldn't close it when they had to. We all see what they did to Florida State. Even if Florida State had all their starters, they still would have beat them by 20. That being said, then Alabama, that last play of the game, I don't know, 3-4 timeouts on the last play of the game?
Yep.
And you run a quarterback draw and do a 7-man front?
Yeah.
And then they're making the excuse, well, they snapped the ball. It was a low snap. He couldn't handle it right. It was supposed to be an RPO with the running back running wide open out in the flat. Well, you didn't execute. And you had trouble executing all day long. You really did. You only threw, 23 times for less than 120 yards? I mean, now, so it's an interesting team because Michigan's going to face a team this week that's going to gun it, Griff. They're going to chuck the ball around. They got a lot better quarterback than Alabama. The kid's an NFL player. Milroe is not. The Alabama's had a lot better versions of quarterbacks over the last 10 years than Milroe. But this here, interesting ball game. What just out of the gate, maybe I think 55.5 might be a bit much, but I'm still looking at the game, Griff, and breaking it down. We'll have a standard play on it. I don't see a top play here because either team's capable of winning it. Little bit of disrespect towards Washington still, and there's always going to be disrespect towards the Pac-12 when they're playing an SEC or a Big 12 or a Big 10 team, and you're still seeing that theme alive and well now.
Well, that's the thing as well, Tony, is right now during bowl games, the Pac-12 is actually leading in record-wise. They're 5-3 in bowl games, and they're actually number one out of every conference. They're leading. And going into this game, I mean, we could go back into the Bama-Michigan sequence, and the biggest thing for that matchup was, and I want to talk about the last play of the game. Well, Saban had mentioned they had to recall the play 3 different times in that sequence because there were 3 different timeouts. And he said that was their last and final play. They saved that play the entire game. That was supposed to be one of their 2-point conversions. So they had that in their back pocket the entire game. It was a low snap, and that did make a sequence for Milroe to where his eyes are at the ground. He's no longer able to follow his guard into the end zone, which chops up the entire play as a quarterback. So that completely did bust the play. But where it really went down was their center. I mean, are you kidding me? You are playing in the Rose Bowl, dude. You cannot have 4 straight. You cannot have 4 bad snaps in this sequence. This is what you play for. This is what they live and die for. That was unacceptable football in my eyes. And to be honest with you, I think Saban got outcoached. I think Michigan was much better. So you look at this game, and with Washington, my biggest concern is, well, we know what Penix is going to do. Penix has passed for over 4,500 yards this year. He's a gunslinger. He's got McMillan. He's got Polk. It does kill that his running back with Dylan Johnson is down. That is detrimental. But right now, it's my biggest concern is how is their front 5 going to stand? Are they going to be able to defend Michigan's defense? Because what Michigan did against Alabama is they attacked their weakness. They brought pressure in and out, play after play after play. And what was Bama's biggest weakness all season long? That was their offensive line. And nobody was able to exploit that. Michigan studied that. They found that, and they attacked it. And they did a great job doing so. So, yeah, Tony, looking at this game, rolling into it, when I really break the game down, I mean, we all know Michigan is the better team. They had a more successful season. I mean, their defense allowed 10 points per game. So that's really going to be something that's a really key eye-opener. But Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator for Michigan, also stated before they played Bama, we've never seen a quarterback like Jalen Milroe. Well, now you got to deal with Michael Penix. Michael Penix is a lot better quarterback than Jalen Milroe. So, Tony, honestly, I like the over in this game. I think this is going to be a shootout type of matchup. J.J. McCarthy is a hell of a quarterback. He's got a hell of a running back, and we know that offensive line is going to be good. My biggest concern is going to be for Washington. How are they going to withstand that defensive line with Michigan? Because they bring the pressure. So, yeah, that's my take on this one, Tony.
Yeah, without Williams, if Williams doesn't play, doesn't look like he's going to.
No.
Probably be the worst kept secret in America in college football this week. But, you got to, when you have the threat of the run, that will ease off some of the pressure on the quarterback. If that's not there, then you're going to have them, they sack Milroe 4 times in the first half in that game. And I think the other thing, too, is when you say Michigan had, maybe played better. They played in the Big Ten, which was really top heavy this year, and Ohio State wasn't all that. And that was their biggest game. Penn State can't beat anybody that's ranked. Because Franklin sucks as a head coach. That guy's terrible. They played teams like Iowa, Nebraska that were struggling on offense. So hell yeah, you're going to allow 10, 11, 12 points a game in the Big Ten. Right. If they'd have ran through the gauntlet of the Pac-12 this year, they'd have gave up a hell of a lot more than 10, 12 points a game. And as evidenced by the record, in the bowl games right now in the Pac-12 leading the way. I mean, did you see Iowa play Tennessee? They didn't score.
Oh my God! It was brutal.
By the way, the friends, I know he's been there forever, and he's like have an old grandpa around the family reunion. Everybody loves him, But you know what? The game has passed him by. It's passed his kid by. If Iowa ever wants to be anything on the map of college football, you got to move on. You have to move on. Period. But at the end of the day here, I think it's going to be a hell of a ball game. I think I don't know about the total right now. I'm still working on it, but I'll guarantee you one thing: Michigan's going to give up more than their average in this game. I guarantee you that, and they're going to give up more than they gave up to Alabama. Just FYI, because this Penix is no joke. Now we're into Week 18 of the NFL, folks. Significant in a few games, non-significant in others. There's still some teams getting in. We'll talk about futures later in the show. But one of the more significant games this weekend is Buffalo at Miami. You want the best? We're going to give you the best. Best game on the board on Sunday. Saturday, the best game on the board is going to be Houston and Indianapolis because the winner goes to the playoff. It's a playoff elimination game. But on Sunday, you've got this Buffalo-Miami game. Buffalo wins, they're in. They win the division. If they lose, they might be out of the playoffs. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So the only thing that Buffalo can control is whether they win or lose this game, Griff. Right. And on the other side of the ball, I was just watching NFL Network before I came on the show today, and apparently Waddle, the wide receiver, did practice today limited with Miami. I don't think he's going to be 100%. And by the way, to head coach McDaniels at Miami, when you're getting your ass kicked all over the place and you got 19 and the other team has 50, pull your starters because you just lost one of your best defensive players in Chubb. He's out. Right. The other guy went out earlier this year that was having a career year at linebacker. Mossert, 50-50 to play. But really, Griff, when you look at this, what's Buffalo done lately? They struggled against New England. They struggled against the Chargers, of all people, an Easton Stick and an interim coach, but they're winning. They're winning ugly. Buffalo -3 on the road, total 49.5. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Tony, I mean, this game, going straight into it, the implications couldn't be any higher. Buffalo does. They control their own fate in this matchup. If they lose this game and Jacksonville and Pittsburgh win, they're done. Their season's over. Miami wins this game, well, they lock up the 2 seed. So this game has huge implications. And yes, Miami is banged up in this game, including Tua. He's questionable, but we know he's going to play. This is the biggest game of the season. So this game really comes down to, and you could look at Buffalo, and as we see, they are rolling into this game on a 4-game winning streak. But they play brutal on the road. And another huge thing that I eyed out in this, and this was something that really blew my mind, and that's with Josh Allen. Everybody always has very high hypes with Josh Allen, but he can never seem to really perform excellence in the big game. And this is the big game. Dating back to playoff matchups, Josh Allen has choked. I mean, there's been so many circumstances where he's kind of been nifty-natty. And in this matchup, it's really concerning for me. I was watching NFL Network, and I actually came across a stat that blew my mind. Josh Allen is the second worst quarterback in the NFL in passing completion rating, which absolutely blew my mind. I had to go back and backtrack to make sure that that was accurate, and it is. They're 3-4 on the road right now, and you've got to deal with Miami, who's only got 1 loss at home all season. Granted, they are banged up, but they still have one of the most versatile offenses in all of football. Whether Mozart, Waddle, whoever is out, their offense is too dynamic. And Buffalo right now, in games where they are laying 3 points, they are right now 0-4-1 on the season. I like Miami in this matchup. I think Miami comes up hot, and we'll know a lot more going through the slate on Sunday after games are ending. We'll get a much better idea of how the playoff picture is going to seam itself up. But in this matchup, where it looks right now, I like Miami right now and the points in this matchup, Tony. But shifting gears.
One thing about Miami, you said they're at home, they're a different animal, and they are. Obviously, they must be. They beat your mighty Cowboys in there. So,
we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk.
Quite a football team. And by the way, the refs gave Dallas a game last week. Hello. But we'll go ahead and we're going to let that slide, Griff. It's hard to trust this Buffalo team. Their defense has not been good. They were devastated early to mid-season in defense with injuries. I mean, I will give them that. They got handed a big flaming dog turd there. They got a lot of second and third stringers in the secondary. They lost some really key players up front, linebacker. And so it's kind of been on the offense to outscore everybody. And as you mentioned, Josh Allen he's oversold. I think he's an oversold commodity right now. And I know we got a lot of Bills Mafia fans following us and this, that, and I like Buffalo. I like their coach. I just think he's been in over his head all year with what he's been handed. And I think it's a real tough spot for them here. And this is for the division. Miami's going to be really coming out here with their ears pinned back after taking a behind the woodshed beating last week by, in their defense, the best team in the AFC and maybe the best team of football.
Agreed. And touching up on that defensive side, I wanted to also touch up. You mentioned that Chubb is out. That is their lead defender on the defensive side. I believe he has the most sacks on their team and tackles, if I'm not mistaken, for Miami. So that's another thing that I'm also keeping in consideration. So I also have a soft lean on the over in this game. And that's at 49.5. But shifting gears right now, we've got Cleveland. We've got Cleveland rolling into Cincinnati. This game kicks off at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Watch it on CBS. With the Bengals win, well, every team in the AFC North will have a positive record, which is ridiculous. Cleveland has secured the 5 seed with a win on Thursday night. Bengals are already eliminated from playoff contention. They're playing for pride. Tony, what's your take in this game?
Oh, I hated this game. After I sent it to you, I hated it.
I looked at it. I know.
Under 37.5. It's dropped from 39 to 37.5. I don't think you're not going to see anything of significance for Cleveland. The one thing about Cleveland that you need to keep in mind moving forward more than anything else is, while they held people to practically nothing at home, they gave up almost 29 points per game on the road this year. And some of those against some really crappy teams like Denver. We go down the list here. That's a concern. They're on the road here. They're not playing anybody. Now this line shot up from 6 to 7.
Yeah.
And the totals dropped. If anything, the best thing to do here, I think Cincy gets the win. I don't think they're going to throw it in. Taylor's not that type of coach. You're going to see P.J. Walker. You saw what he could do. That's why they went and got Joe Flacco off the couch, eating Fritos and, watching Netflix, and said, you want to come play some ball? He might end up getting comeback player of the year and only played about a third of the season. But what an unbelievable run that Cleveland was on. They want everybody healthy. They're going to have a tough draw no matter who they play in the postseason. They're going to be away from home, so they're going to have to figure out how to scheme their D, because Schwartz has done a hell of a job. He probably, the ex-head coach of the Lions, their defensive coordinator, he might be up for a head coaching job yet this year. When all the dust settles at the end of the season, he should be. But I don't see a lot of scoring here. If I do, it's going to be by Cincinnati. It's not going to be by Cleveland. Cleveland wants to get out of here healthy, and that is it. And they're not going to risk jack crap. If you wanted to put Cincy in a teaser down to -1, you're probably golden. Now, let's get to a game here, Griff. Total shot up to 44.5 today from 44. Green Bay laying 3 to Chicago. Chicago playing some of the best ball of anybody in the NFL. I know they're your hometown team. A lot of that reason really hasn't been humongous games from Justin Fields. It's been from Chicago's defense.
Yeah.
Last 5 games, Atlanta 17, Arizona 16, Cleveland 20, Detroit 13, Minnesota 10. That's the defensive points allowed their last 5 games. And, of course, Green Bay owns these guys. Now, Green Bay, win and you're in. That's the story. Win and you're in. They have games where they look like world beaters, and they have games where they look like they're a high school junior varsity team playing in a soap scrimmage after 3 days and 2-a-days, and you don't know what you're going to get. Green Bay 9-1 straight up and against the spread against Green Bay. The last 10 meetings, Green Bay is 7-0 straight up and against the spread. The last 7 games in Lambeau against the Bears. Nobody would like to spoil the party more than the Chicago Bears here for the Green Bay Packers. What's your take?
Yeah, Tony, it's so disappointing, man, to watch what the Bears are finally doing now, especially me. I'm a diehard Bears fan, and the entire controversy with Justin Fields, do we go get a new quarterback, the whole circumstance as well. I want to start right there and talk about that just really quickly. Well, for my instance, do not go get a new quarterback. And if you're going to do so, you have to do it smart. The Bears have clinched that number 1 draft pick right now. And it's
go get a new coach. Go get a new coach. Go get a new offensive coordinator. Get a new director of player personnel.
Offensive coordinators got to go.
Get the frick out of town.
Offensive coordinators got to go. Now they're talking about keeping Eberflus, which drives me insane. But really what it came down to is Justin Fields is a legit quarterback, and he's finally showing it out. I want to say he's 4-2 in his last 6 games. His completion rating is ridiculous. He's passed for over 2,000 yards. I mean, he looks absolutely outstanding. He's the most athletic player on the football field. And then DJ Moore, Ryan Poles, now everything that you did on that in the offseason going over, it all starting to make sense. Unfortunately, it's too late. The Bears 3 weeks ago, if we could have just beat the Browns, we'd be in the playoff content. This would be the matchup. It would be Green Bay versus Chicago, winners going in. And you know what? I love the way Chicago is playing. And Tony, you mentioned it already. Their defense is playing better football than anybody in the NFL for the past 5 weeks. It is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Sweat's
Yeah.
the guy they went and snagged. He's playing out of control. Their entire defense is playing Edwards. They're all looking absolutely unreal. And then you go to Green Bay right now. Well, let's just say Jordan Love, he played the game of his life against Minnesota. You know what? The pressure was on and the kid showed out. But now you're asking him to come into a circumstance where he has to win at home in a do or die situation, in a situation he's never been in before, where the Bears are kind of rolling into this thing saying, hey, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go in here and let's end their season. I believe for the Bears in this matchup, the only guy that's not playing is Darnell Mooney as one of their star quote unquote players. So
Right.
you know the Bears are going to come into this game fully loaded. I love Chicago in this game. I know Green Bay's playing for it all right now, and I know they are playing at very high caliber level football, especially on that offensive side with Dylan crushing up that offensive line, and Jordan Love is lighting it up. But right now, the way Chicago's playing, they're one of the best teams in football in my eyes from what I'm watching. And don't quote me best teams in football. They're playing like one of the best teams in football. So in this one, Tony, I'm laying the 3 points with the Chicago Bears in this matchup, or taking the 3 points with the Chicago Bears in this matchup. And shifting gears, go ahead, Tony.
This game reminds me of Alabama, Georgia in the SEC title game. Alabama went in there loose, nothing to lose. If we win, we probably won't get in. Maybe we might because, we're an SEC team and ESPN loves us and it's all political, but we don't give a crap. And Georgia had all the pressure on them. And they folded and they were the better team. I'm not so sure Green Bay right now is the better team. I mean, they really have had some problems. I can't trust Love and I can't trust LaFleur.
Nope.
I can't trust either one of them in a big spot. I'm with you. And when you got Chicago going in there not giving a rat's ass, going other than, hey, let's just go stuff it to them. Green Bay's been nothing but sticking it up our rear end for the last 20 freaking years since Jim McMahon and Walter Payton left and Willie Gault. I mean, ever since then, they just been handing us our ass. Yeah, they're going to go in there loose and they're going to cut Fields loose. If he doesn't, he needs to have his ass fired. Just tell Fields to go ape crap all over the place. Just go crazy. If they do, and Green Bay gets their back against the wall, and that defense steps up and continues to spit nails like they were, hell yeah. I definitely have Chicago in a 2-team 6-point teaser as well.
I like that. Well, we're rolling into our last segment, and that's the Tony teaser.
There we
go. Tease them up.
Speaking of teasers, you can use Chicago in one. As I mentioned earlier, we're also going to talk about our thoughts on some futures bets in the AFC and NFC and Super Bowl. My teaser of the week is real simple. I'm taking 2 teams, one of them in a must-win situation, which I think possibly could have slightly the better team, and that would be the Colts. And we're doing what we do, value teasers. A value teaser is when you're getting through 3 key numbers. Colts sitting at plus 1.5. Can you believe that? Houston's favored. Houston. Everybody left him like a redheaded stepchild in an orphanage. Nobody wants it. They don't want the ginger. They want the blue-eyed blonde kid. They don't want the ginger. Nonetheless, you're getting them through 3, 6, and 7. And up to 7.5 on the hook. Should be a 1-possession ball game between Houston and the Colts for all the marbles. And let's not forget about the team we talked about last week. The team I told everybody, they are not throwing in the towel. They are playing down to the wire. The Arizona Cardinals, who not only covered the double digits, they beat the hapless Eagles. By the way, what's wrong with the Eagles? What?
Tony.
This was everybody. Hey, I told everybody all year long on this show, Buffalo was average and Philadelphia was way overrated. Told you all year long. Here we go. Arizona Cardinals.
Brutal.
They're sitting at plus 2.5. You get them through 6, through 7, through 3, another 3 key fall numbers in the NFL that you want to get them through. And that this is I tell you what, I'm amazed at how well, everybody's talking about the coaching job that Stepnoski's done at Cleveland, which is commendable, dealing with 4 different quarterbacks, and then you talk about the job that the Houston quarterback or the Houston head coach has done, but this coach there in Arizona, at home, he's won some big games. They throttled Dallas earlier this year with Josh Dobbs, and this team could have easily been a 2-win, 1-win team all year long, thrown it in. Murray's come in, and you're seeing how great of a back Connors is, by the way, too. That guy is a freaking stud. You live down there. That guy is a freaking stud when he is healthy.
Load.
Big time. Yeah. So I'm taking Arizona against the Sea Chickens, and going to go ahead and take the Colts in the teaser of the week. In the let's look at the future bets right now. AFC, NFC championship winners. You want the super lock of the millennium, Stu Feiner style? Old school, loudmouth tout, screaming on television, call 1-800-can't-lose. I got it right here. I'm going to give it to you. Ravens plus 130 to win the AFC. San Francisco minus 125. I think we saw the Super Bowl a couple of Monday nights ago. I said it then. I'll say it now. I did put $100 today on my Kansas City Chefs plus 425.
You gave it away.
I had to make Mrs. George happy. And my long shot to win the NFC, I put a hundy on them at 8-1. Give me the Detroit Lions. I'm just throwing a flyer out there. Just throwing a flyer out there. They're the heart attack kids. And, of course, to win the Super Bowl, San Francisco was plus 225. Baltimore plus 320. But here's a question I got for you. You can make comments on this.
Sure.
To win the Super Bowl, and I just wonder what you're thinking. The NFC to win it is minus 125, and the AFC is plus 105. What do you think?
AFC plus 105. 100%.
Yeah. I think so.
Who's gonna stop Baltimore? Who's gonna stop Baltimore? That's the biggest question. I mean, obviously you've got San Fran rolling in hot, but Baltimore, what they just did last week, I mean, did that not kind of signal to everybody in the NFL? We're here to not only beat you guys, but we're going to destroy you in the process. I mean, they're rolling over everybody.
They did it on Monday night the previous week. They did it on Monday night the previous week. And then an AFC front runner in Miami. Who else is going to – you got all kinds of teams in the AFC that could upset anybody, depending on Kansas City isn't dead yet, I mean, Miami's good. You got all kinds of teams. The Browns are no joke. Flacco is playing like Joe Montana right now. And the NFC, what do you got? Your runner-up is what? Dallas or Philadelphia? Hey, Cowboys and Eagles fan, calm the frick down. You're going to be playing away from home, too. And San Francisco. And then you get this, say it is. Then you get the Super Bowl. Who's going to win the MVP this year? Is it going to be Brock Purdy or is it going to be Lamar Jackson? Well, Lamar Jackson is minus 20,000 to win it all, to MVP. Brock Purdy and McCaffrey are tied at plus 4,500. So you're going to have Brock Purdy and Shanahan, who just got his ass coached off 2 weeks ago, or you're going to have John Harbaugh, who's won one already, best coach in football with the best player in football. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? I bet the AFC plus 105. Do I think they're going to if in fact it comes to fruition and Baltimore does play San Francisco, do I think on a neutral field, even though they destroyed them on their home field, do I think that happens again where they just take them out behind the woodshed and school them and outcoach them and outplay them in every single facet of the game known to mankind? No, I don't think it's going to be that easy, but it might be easier than you think because this team has proven the last 2 weeks. Guess what? F around and find out.
And Tony, I think it's Lamar, man. Lamar puts the team on his shoulder, and when Lamar wants to go, he wants to go. He'll tuck and run. He'll air it out. I mean, that offense is so versatile. But there's, like you mentioned, man, you've got Miami in there as well, and you have Cleveland. Cleveland just came out of nowhere, so there's somebody as well in the AFC that I really have. Joe Flacco sitting on the couch. Now all of a sudden, this team's, what are they, 11-5? They don't lose at home to begin with. Their defense is one of the best defenses in the NFL. And now you've got Flacco and Cooper rolling in. You've got Ford in the backfield. It doesn't get much better than that now, and they're really starting to creep up in that AFC. And then you go over to the NFC. Well, Dallas can't win away from home, and that's been established, especially McCarthy. Terrible coach in my eyes. I don't think he's doing a good job at all. And the run game has been terrible for Dallas right now. Dallas is averaging 2.9 yards per carry as of their last game. They ran the ball 15 times on first down against Detroit, and they were averaging 2 yards per carry. McCarthy, what the hell are you doing? You got to adapt. You cannot do that. And then another team I think that's strong in the NFC is the Rams. I think the Rams are a sleeper team. Donald on that defensive line, he rips heads off, and you got a real good and another coach of the year, Tony, that I really wanted to touch base on, and that is Sean McVay. What he's been dealt with this season. He's got all youngsters, man. Kyron Williams. I mean, you've got to think about it. Puka, half of his defense. This was supposed to be a lay-down season for the Rams. They weren't supposed to be anybody good this year, and they've literally turned all of these rookies into MVP calibers. And this team is in playoffs now, literally getting ready. They're great in my eyes. They turned the whole season around. Sean McVay, cap off to you. NFC, I'm just going to give you my 3 favorite teams in each division. And that's going to be Baltimore, Miami, and Cleveland in the AFC. And in the NFC, it's the Niners, Dallas, and Los Angeles.
Well, I don't think I'm going to renew your contract next year for the Gridiron 6-pack because you didn't mention my Chiefs, you piece of, you know why.
They're done.
But
they're done.
That being said, here is the odds of the teams right now that are in the playoffs. There's other ones that aren't in the playoffs yet, but are going to be to win the Super Bowl. San Francisco plus 225, Ravens plus 320. That's a good bet on the Ravens. Cowboys plus 800. Chiefs, which you failed to mention. We don't have a wide receiver. I don't blame you. Chiefs plus 900. Eagles. The Eagles plus 1,100. The number 2 power-rated team in the NFL for 90% of the season. Dolphins plus 1,200. Lions plus 2,000. Browns plus 3,300. Rams plus 6,000. Now, Browns at 3,300 look like the most attractive long shot there is. I don't think the Rams can get there. I've said it all year long. You stole my line, but I don't blame you. This has been Sean McVay's best job coaching in his career this year. And he's not going to win a Super Bowl. But I'll tell you what, it's been his best job without question. But it's going to be interesting, folks. Again, next Wednesday, 1 o'clock live on Twitter. It'll be archived there. We're doing a little StreamYard, Raw and Unfiltered podcast, letting you know what we finally decided for the Hoops edition of a weekly show with Griffin and I. And again, if you missed the opening of the show, we will award you a week free of NBA or NCAA basketball from me and Griffin if we use your idea as the name for that podcast. So leave it in the comments and be sure and do that. Honestly, folks, I would like to tell you what I'm going to do this weekend in football. but I have no frickin' idea yet because the national title game is pretty tight. Number two is there's a lot of tricky games and other games that don't mean jack squat.
Yep.
In the NFL this week, they're going to live to fight another day. If I have a teaser and maybe 1 4 or 5 unit pick, that's going to be about it. National title game, I'll probably throw around, since there's props available, I'll probably throw some props in on the play in that game as well. Griff?
Yeah, this weekend for me, I've got 1 7-unit best bet circled up. I've been drilling my 7-unit plays on the NFL. I've hit 7 in a row, 6 in a row. I have to check that metric. So I'm going to be sticking with that. I've already got my play drawn up, typed out. That's where I'm at on the NFL side of things. Now, when it comes to the national title, I'm with you right now, Tony. I'm not sure if I'm going to go with the total in this game. That's kind of where I'm eyeing out in this matchup, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm only stuck on one game as of right now, heading into the weekend.
I think there's more opportunity in college and pro basketball over Saturday and Sunday than there is in the NFL. I mean, it's a coin flip game.
Mm-hmm.
Can Houston pull off the miracle season and get in the playoffs? You know, can the Bucks win and win a division after the dog turd that they laid last week? Never even got off the bus. Just shows you how bad of a coach Todd Bowles is. His ass needs to go, along with Chicago's coach, along with Smith from Atlanta. I mean, he's terrible. I mean, so, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be able to discuss on the podcast next week. And then we'll be back up on Doc's YouTube channel in 2 weeks with a new show. We appreciate everybody tuning in all year long. It's been fun. A little long-winded today, but it's our send-off show for 23-24 and 2023-24. And we really appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you putting up with me, trying to digest Griff. And we also want to give a tip of the cap to our producer, Jeremy, who does a fantastic job on the show for us each and every week, and he'll be along board with us for the new show as well. You got to love Jeremy because he's a San Diego boy, but his favorite character trait of mine is he's a Kansas City Chiefs fan, Griff. So up yours.
It's going to be a sad season. Sad ending for you guys. But
Thanks for jumping in, folks. We'll talk to you next week. We'll be over on Twitter next week and back on YouTube the week after, and that's at T George Sports. Griff, have you got a Twitter?
I have a Twitter. Yes, it's G Murphy Wins, at G Murphy Wins.
So we'll copy it over there as well. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy the final week in the NFL.
Thanks, everybody.